to it thinking this would help you as a business person, or is it a door to get into media, or I mean, what was the point of going on?
I think if you look at the general age of candidates nowadays, it's a younger audience, and I've grown up watching the show. So from my perspective, I'd always just grown up watching it, thinking, God, I really do think I could do that. I am in the midst of prep for my bodybuilding competitions, so my time is very centred around training and trying to get as much content and insight into that as much as I can. I think bodybuilding is one of those sports that not many people know all too much about, and I think there's a few misconceptions of it. So if I can educate people and bring correct information about the sport through means that I enjoy, then so be it. And whatever comes of it, comes of it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour for a bunch of stories, including, have you picked a side yet in India versus Pakistan? Well, you'd better hurry up because the violence is breaking out along the Indian-Pakistani border in Britain. And does the BBC licence fee unfairly target women? I guess it makes up for all the waiters who give the bill to the bloke. And why are white men banned from applying for jobs in the Premier League? Are they trying to make the back office have the same racial makeup as the teams? I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by Cressida Wetton and Nick Dixon to take you through Saturday's top stories. There they are. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks very much, Leo. Good evening to you. President Trump has arrived in Rome ahead of the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday. Trump and his wife, Melania, landed at Italy's Leonardo da Vinci International Airport a short time ago. Now, he's due to spend, about 15 hours in Rome, leaving directly after the funeral. A number of world leaders were amongst the last to arrive at St. Peter's Basilica, including the French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte. The Prince of Wales is attending on behalf of the King. Sir Keir Starmer, his wife Victoria, and the Foreign Secretary David Lammy will also be in attendance. Around 250,000 people from all over the world had lined up to say farewell to the Pope since his body was brought to St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday. The coffin's now been sealed. At the funeral, the Vatican says, will be attended by more than 150 delegations, including 54 heads of state and 12 reigning sovereigns. The Kremlin says high-level talks between the US and Russia aimed at ending the war in Ukraine were constructive and useful. Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff met Vladimir Putin in Moscow earlier. They discussed the possibility of direct negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. President Zelensky has since said Ukraine may be willing to discuss territorial concessions, but only if there's an unconditional ceasefire. Meanwhile, Russia's accused Ukraine of carrying out a car bomb attack in Moscow earlier. A senior officer in the armed forces was killed. Russia's foreign ministry claims Ukrainian special forces were involved. Marks & Spencer says it stopped taking orders online as it continues to struggle with the fallout from a cyber attack. Problems with its payment system began last weekend, with M&S confirming on Tuesday it was dealing with a cyber incident. It's now paused all orders on its website and app, including clothing and food deliveries. The UN's World Food Programme says it's now run out of food stocks in Gaza due to Israel's blockade of aid. Israel cut off humanitarian supplies to Gaza's 2.3 million residents at the beginning of March and resumed its offensive after the collapse of a ceasefire. Israel says the blockade is designed to secure the release of remaining hostages. It's accused Hamas of exploiting aid, which Hamas denies. Authorities in Gaza say 78 people have been killed since Thursday and now more than 51,000 since the war began. And boxer Chris Eubank Jr. has missed the weight for Saturday's all-British fight against Conor Benn. He's been fined £375,000. Eubank Jr. had 2 attempts to make the 11 stone 6 limit for the fight at Tottenham Stadium, but he missed it by less than an ounce. Benn, who has operated at welterweight for most of his career, came in lighter than expected at 11 stone 2. Eubank and Benn will fight 32 years after their fathers last met for the WBC and WBO super middleweight titles during their rivalry in the 1990s. That's it from me for the moment. Now it's back to headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron, and hello and welcome to Headliners, where we give you the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what the papers have in store for us on today's show. The Daily Express leads with, Britain will enjoy a week of 27 degrees heat. The Daily Mail has, Greg Wallace, sex pest claims left me suicidal. The Daily Mirror leads with, make tourists fear us. That's anti-tourist protest across Europe. The Independent leads with, WHO warns Trump cuts put millions of HIV patients at risk. The Eye Weekend has, UK rail crisis deepens with 2025's worst train services revealed. And the Daily Star has, Boff's plan to switch off the sun. What could possibly go wrong with that? So let's have a closer look at some of those front pages. Hello, Cressida. Hello, Nick. How are you both doing, by the way?
Very well, thanks, Leo.
Great. You're looking very summery.
Thanks.
And Nick, you're looking like you're in The Godfather.
Thank you. That's what I was going for.
Good.
I look the same the whole time. Reliable.
Yeah.
All seasons.
Reliable Nick. Mm-hmm. And let's have a look at this this front cover of The Guardian. It says, EU paves way for youth to travel and work freely. Is that by saying you're a 16-year-old Syrian?
So cynical, Leo. No, the EU is prepared to make major concessions. They want to come here. Right? The EU are up for this. They want to send people here. The UK is incredibly popular. I don't know if you're aware of that. I think we should be charging for this.
How bad is the rest of the world?
Awful. So previously they wanted longer. They wanted these things to go on longer. Now we're kind of getting towards saying maybe 12 months. We're talking about a one-in, one-out policy. But again, we don't have a great history of doing that sort of thing. So I don't know,
yeah.
I don't know how that's going to go. We're talking about moving around freely. Obviously, kids in this country won't work for even 40 grand. So doing it freely seems optimistic. They're going to call it the Youth Experience Programme, right? This is to avoid anyone thinking that this might be about people trying to move here permanently. So they've dealt with that.
Do you think, Nick, people might be more amenable to EU migration, given that Brexit was essentially about stopping migration because people were worried about Poland's and Romanians, and we've seen that there are worse types of cultures that you can import.
I would never say worse, Leo, but I would just say more social housing-y. But do you know what? If I was going to be a Remainer doing the ultimate conspiracy theory, that is exactly what I would do. But, oh, what, we left the EU, how about millions of low-skilled workers and people on dinghies? How about that? And then people go, no, we don't like that. It's like, you liked the EU, didn't you? And you go back into the EU, and you just have, like, 12 Polish people, and you go, this is exactly like you say. That is the ultimate conspiracy. That is exactly what I do as a Remainer. I love this bit about, they've rebranded it Youth Experience, so that'll eliminate anyone worrying about it. You've told us the propaganda you're doing. You shouldn't put it on the front page of The Guardian, you know what I mean? Now we'll know.
It's a good way of renaming it. They should rename the small boats, just like call them fun dinghies or something like that.
Well, they already call them irregular migrants, don't they?
Yeah.
They're pretty regular, though, aren't they? I've noticed.
Irregular youth enrichment. How about that?
Yes, we
that's
can try
a good
that.
name for it. And
You've also got the Ice Bucket Challenge coming back.
Oh, fantastic.
Which is long overdue. Apparently it's been 10 years. Did you do it, Nick? I bet you were into that.
Yeah, I loved it. Yes, I did the ice bucket
the
challenge.
Ice Bucket every day, aren't you? That's
the joke is just the idea that I would do it. That's the whole joke there.
You're already frozen. And
ice bucket would be a good idea when the people arrive on the dinghies. Ice bucket, and they leave it. Just ideas, guys.
Yeah, and it would raise
typical ideas.
It would raise some money for is it motor neuron syndrome? And moving on to the Daily Mail, they've got the Greg Wallace interview there, Nick.
Poor Greg Wallace. Greg Wallace, sex pest claims left me suicidal. And he's talking about the pressure, especially when he was accused of these things and how he didn't mean to upset anyone. And he talked about maybe he was a bit autistic in the past and that he just didn't do it on purpose, which I totally believe, actually. I mean, he thought about it, and people don't realise. He says you don't realise unless you go through it, and it's true. I've had friends go through this on a massive scale where the tabloid newspapers were just attacking them for 2 years. I've even had it on a smaller scale. The entire comedy industry attacked me. I couldn't sleep for like 3 days. Before I was used to that. Now every day, obviously I'm used to it.
You never went into a studio full of comedians with only a sock on it. I think that's
right.
Yeah,
right, I see what you mean. I'm talking about the people don't realise what it's like to be cancelled and how horrific it is. Unless they've been through it, they sort of think it's fine, but it's horrible.
Well,
go on.
I'm sure it is. I'm just a bit divided on this one because some of his behaviour was, I wouldn't appreciate it.
I'd forgotten about the sock thing. I mean, that is out there.
Yeah, you could have told us before we made you work with Lewis. But, I mean, some of the stuff... My issue with Greg Wallace, I think all his jokes and his banter, all right, obviously some people aren't going to like it. Kirsty Wark's not going to like it. You know what I mean? All right, but, you know... Not everybody's got a sense of humour, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, some people aren't going to like it. But then his way out of it was to try and be like, oh, I was suicidal, I've got autism. It's like, why don't you just say you're trans as well? You're just ticking every sort of pity box. Why don't you do it, Gary Lineker? Oh, you know what? I'm actually black, guys.
I totally disagree.
Racistly bullied.
It's good we got some balance. I have far more empathy because when you're going through these things, people do feel suicidal stuff. It's completely normal. I totally believe him. You don't care, Leo.
Men feel suicidal all the time. That's
true.
Point of being a man.
That's true.
I say get him on headliners, Greg, if you'd like to come on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we love inappropriate jokes.
Well, absolutely.
And bad attempts at humour.
And
That's half the show.
Also, he's hilarious, and we wouldn't make him feel bad for anything he put on his genitalia. We just accept him. We accept people for who they are, and I think that's very important. OK, well, let's have a look inside the newspapers. We've got the Telegraph now, and the war between India and Pakistan looks like it's going to spill over into British streets. How will Keir Starmer blame this one on white people, Cressida?
Oh, we will see. War in Kashmir will explode onto Britain's streets. I mean, that's past tense. We have had a taste of this already in this country.
Delicious taste.
Well, this is Rakibi Shan writing in the Telegraph. So 26 people were killed in Kashmir in India, and now the border's been closed. But Pakistan are threatening war with India. So this is obviously massively important. It's terrible.
They can't do it there, so they're going to do it in Leicester.
Well, I don't want to say that, but in 2022 there were riots in Leicester over a cricket match, and this is 26 people killed. You know, so
is that worse?
Well, of course, it's not as bad as sport. No, you're quite right. I didn't mean to be insensitive, but it is very bad.
Yeah.
They do take cricket very seriously, to be fair. But yeah, a war, it could up the ante. I'm sure he's put that. Yeah, he's put it in there very dryly, hasn't he? That it erupted over weeks of rioting over a cricket match. So yeah, this is going to get very nasty, and that's the problem with importing all the world's problems onto your streets. See, people believe this magic soil idea, integration, but people just keep their own resentments. They keep their own loyalties.
Well, I've got to push back on that because, of course, there's a lot of people out there, Guardian readers and such like, who quite rightly say that when people come here from very alien cultures, they immediately become 100% British as soon as they get off that boat, Nick.
No, you're right, actually. I do have to push back against myself because some people here are more extreme than in their native countries. We have a lot of people here who follow adherents of certain religions who follow it more strictly than in their own country. So here's another point, though. I think you said something about this maybe on Twitter, Lee, or somewhere. How is Starmer going to blame this on the far-right? Did you? I know. Everything blends together for me now. I'm too old. But how is he going to blame it? I mean, it's like, how is he going to get out of this? He's just going to double down, but I don't know how. Because you'd think they've got to acknowledge this now, but they'll just double down. It'll just be another blow for the progressive elite and their failure to deal with, the consequences of their actions. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're told that, diversity equals strength, but in some cases, diversity seems to equal internecine tribal sectarian conflict, which isn't the same as strength in doesn't sound
in
as
my
good
culture.
Well,
in a Sadiq Khan tweet, does it? Sorry, go on.
Depending on the scale of this, he might get out of it by letting the community leaders talk about how they would like to be policed, rather than dealing with it in the way you might if you two were having a barn. I mean, that's possible.
That's what they do. They come in and say, can we do some police next Thursday? No, we're busy fighting that day. Try Friday. OK.
Well, I saw some of the footage that had been filmed and uploaded on Twitter of the fights between the sort of Indian and Pakistan sides in London, and the police looked pretty stretched thin at one point. Obviously, they're not steaming in and whacking people in the head because they're not far-right white thugs, as Keir Starmer would say. But it did look like things could get out of hand. What else was interesting was the Pakistan side were waving Palestine flags and the Indian side were waving Israel flags, showing that
so much sense.
Everything can be brought back to that conflict.
I know. Do you know what? It's going to be hard for police because all their training programmes about a guy with a British flag or an England flag. Yeah. How are they going to recognise this new threat?
They're going to turn around and attack some random phone box because it looks British. Anyway, let's move on. We've got the Express now, and the EU is demanding that Britain pay to help defend them militarily. I think we already paid for this in blood in World War II, Nick.
Interesting point. It's EU demands UK must pay to join new defence pact as Starmer outwitted by von der Leyen. Imagine that. Of course, he's outwitted quite frequently. So this is insane. We have to pay to be part of this defence fund. We've already paid more than a lot of European countries. We've actually been largely keeping up our end when Trump says, you've got to pay more. We have been. But other countries, Germany, they've not been paying much. So I already resent it on those grounds. They always love to just shake you down, don't they, the EU? That's their favourite thing to do.
Absolutely, and it seems like, if we're a stronger leader, you might be able to get a better deal for Britain, because I think the EU needs our military assistance more than we need the EU's military assistance, because the war is in Europe.
I think, well, yeah, that's a very good point. That's exactly right. But then there are a lot of people that voted for Labour on the grounds that they were going to reset the relationship with the EU. And to be fair, he's doing that. So really the shocking part of the story is that Starmer's sort of doing something he said he'd do.
Yeah, no, that's true. And also, I mean, do you think there's some issues here around corruption? Because there's a €150 billion EU defence fund. And we know that more money is going to be allocated to the military. They're talking up to €1 trillion. But we've seen under the COVID contracts, Ursula von der Leyen, the grand poobah of the whole of the EU, was allocating contracts in some suspect ways. She's being investigated for allocating contracts via WhatsApp, the sort of thing that would bring down Marine Le Pen, but it doesn't bring down Ursula von der Leyen, of course.
Right. Is that true? I mean, why are people in those positions still using WhatsApp? I mean, don't they know Signal is where it's at?
yeah. Just invite a few random journalists and do it on there. OK, well, that's it for the first section. But coming up, we're going to look at the Daily Mirror, and we've got loads more stories from inside the papers. See you in a minute. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Can you find love in your twilight years? That's what we're asking this morning. Broadcaster Ryan Mark Parsons and former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe join us now. Good to see you both this morning. Anne, let's start with you. Is 70 too old to date, do you think?
70 isn't too old for anything. Everybody ages at different rates, both mentally, physically, in the sorts of things they like. When you say to me, is 80 too late is 70, well, we might even say 80. It's too late to find love. The answer is just look around you. Lots of people have. But let me say right away, no, that's not an invitation. I've absolutely no ambitions in that area at all.
Ryan Mark, what do you make of it? Do we need to stop putting a bar on ageing and dating?
No, I don't think we should. I think once you get to such an old age, you really should be looking for love internally. I mean, you should self-love. I just don't see the point at 70 years old to be searching for love at that point. I think you should go on holiday somewhere. I think you should find love with the sunshine and a cocktail, perhaps, instead of looking for a man or a woman. I think at what point do you decide that you know, love is not going to come around knocking on your door. And I think probably at the age of 70, that is when you should decide it's time to give up. I'm 24, living in London. I know how incredibly hard it is to find love. I don't know how anyone who has wrinkles and grey hair at the age of 70, over someone like me, could perhaps find love. I just don't think it's possible. I think it's a nice idea, but I think it's not feasible. And also, I don't think there's any point at that age.
The People's Channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursave for some of your comments. Dave Dawlish makes the great point that male suicide is one of the biggest causes of male death, or the biggest cause. And you'd think none of these health sector employees had a son, the way people carry on. Yeah, it's a very underrated and talked down thing in the media, but it's a huge problem. Men are killing themselves. Why don't men have the, you know, what's been taken away from men, I think. And also somebody called Nobody says, Leo, is it better to be far right or far wrong? I think we know the answer to that one. Anyway, let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got the Mirror here, Cressida.
Yeah, make tourists fear us. Holiday warning to Brits. So these are protesters set to target European airports and summer hotspots. So they're going to the airports now. I know there's been a lot of this in Spain, people in Spain holding up banners saying Brits go home. Yeah. Because I guess we don't have the best reputation. I think I heard that Greg Wallace went to Spain and had some tequila or something. Yeah, so this has been going on for ages, but it's now on the front cover of the Telegraph. I guess we're coming into the holiday season. Yeah. Might be a good time not to go to...
Well, what's interesting is, you know, we see the Guardian and various lefties supporting the sort of anti-tourist protests, which should mean that these same lefties and progressives should have some sympathy with people who are anti-immigration, because tourists are just immigrants who come with money and leave after 2 weeks.
It's a great point. I know, it's a great point, especially if you're like a global minority. You know, people are coming in, less liberal views. Yeah, it's a very lefty point you're making there, Leo. Me and you are lefties now. Did you know that?
We are lefties, Nick.
I agree with this. I mean, yes, tourists shouldn't go anywhere. I'm against people moving anywhere. I've upheld my end of the bargain. I've not left since about 2017. When they brought in the threat of the COVID passport, if you're making you take the safe and effective injection, I just said, well, I'll just never go anywhere again then. Checkmate. And so I'm against going anywhere. And I think it's totally, why should you have loads of... Mind you, we always have this problem where I'm from in the Lakes. We don't like off-comers and people from the outside world, but we need them to survive and eat and run our businesses. And that is a bit of a problem. We've never really squared that circle. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I doubt there's many restaurant owners holding up these placards.
A good point. I'm saying it's a conflict within the restaurant worker who doesn't want, you know, people coming in from outside but needs them. It's always a problem, and that is their problem. They're dependent on tourism, but the tourists are really annoying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And funnily enough, where I'm from, there was a little shop that sold touristy stuff, and then the guy appeared on Border TV or whatever it was, complaining about incomers, complaining about English people coming in and all the rest of it. And then so the English people were like, right, well, I'll go and get my olives at Tesco and not go to this little shop. And he went out of business. Moving on, Nick, we've got the Independent. What's on the front cover there?
Independent has who warns Trump cuts put millions of HIV patients at risk. It's like an Abbott and Costello thing. Who does it? But it's the WHO, and it's not an appropriate story to joke about because it's about HIV patients. I would never joke about that on the telly. They're worried about it because of cuts to US aid, that somehow this will make, well, not somehow, it's to do with, it will make the drugs less effective because of increasing drug resistance to treatment by these shortages, which they're tying back to cuts to US aid. Now, I'm sure it is a serious issue, the HIV treatment, But it's funny how the Independent's tying it back to US aid, which was largely nonsense and stuff that should have been cut.
Yeah.
But maybe there are some things like this that shouldn't be.
So some of the drag queen operas were also handing out HIV medication. I mean, this is quite radical. But I mean, on the one hand, I'd say yeah, I'd agree with that. But then there's going to be people out there who'll be saying, well, why is it America's responsibility to pay for HIV medication in Malawi?
But most people, when they think of waste, they're not thinking about things like this, are they? I think the average...
I am.
You are not
exactly
the
where
average
it starts.
person, Leo. You're not the average person. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are some casualties of these savings, is probably the answer. They've also got a photo where the Russian general was killed in Moscow. What a horrendous image. I've seen the video of this today. This is supposed to be targeted. I think it's when he got into the car, it was remotely detonated.
If it makes you feel better, he's a terrible person who was ordering troops into Ukraine to rape and kill and steal fridges.
Well, yes, I appreciate that. I still find it a very disturbing image.
I think it's great. I think it shows the reach of Budanov, Ukraine's head of intelligence. This was revenge for the strikes on Kyiv. And it's a signal to anyone in Moscow they're not safe. They can take anybody out. I think it's great to see Ukraine being able to flex its might deep into the heart of Russia. Nick?
No, you know far more about it than me, Leo. It's, I mean, it's quite disturbing how into it you are, but like, I don't know enough about the story, so I'm deferring to your, slightly nerdish military knowledge, if anything.
Slightly.
OK, well, let's move on and look at a story inside the paper. We've got the Telegraph now with trans women having a big moan. To be honest, that does sound like a real woman, Nick.
Yeah, this is the old BBC to hold listening sessions for trans staff who face hostility. So sometimes I think we need a listening session after having to do all these stories about the BBC because they're so annoying and insane. But this is an internal memo. This is not a general corporate message. This was an internal memo that maybe we weren't supposed to see, but it's gone out and said, oh, look, the last few days have been difficult for many of you, and we'll all be listening and doing listening things. They said, we want to be really clear that in no circumstances will we accept this ruling being used as a mechanic, which I thought was a strange word, probably not that many trans mechanics, to create an environment of hostility towards our trans and non-binary colleagues.
Yeah.
I mean, OK, it's just BBC going to BBC, isn't it? It's, I mean, we'll talk later about why they should not get the licence fee anymore. But many people pointed out, what about women? Did they get a special listening session? Because they didn't mind, Kath Walton, former journalist, she was subjected to a disciplinary process for saying there's no scientific support for the idea that males can be women on a post on X. Did she get a special listening session? I doubt it.
That's a great point, and we've seen the BBC cancel many people who stood up for women's rights. Martina Navratilova and Sharon Davies. I don't know if anybody heard an ice cream van just reverse into the studio there. But yeah, I mean, the BBC seem to be treating trans women with kid gloves and treating women.
Absolutely, it's two-tier grievance now, isn't it? Like your sadness is more important than yours. Also, I want to know who's going to have to do the listening. That's not been laid out. I think if you're thinking of applying for like an internship, maybe give it 6 months.
Yeah. Your first job might be. It's the new. You always get the worst job. You got to clean the toilets with a toothbrush, or you've got to listen to some burly bloke in a summer dress whinge on about how his wife doesn't understand him. And we're seeing a lot of organisations ignoring the Supreme Court ruling. I think the Girl Guides organisation said it's going to ignore the ruling. The London Marathon is going to let women like me run as in the female category.
You have about 2 paces to my 10, wouldn't you? That doesn't seem fair.
It's not just that. Labour ministers were WhatsApping about ignoring it, weren't they? That seemed kind of a big deal to me.
Absolutely. Moving on, we've got the Telegraph again with the BBC again. This time, the licence fee is misogynistic, Cressida.
BBC licence fee is unenforceable and targets women, claims Culture Secretary. So this is Lisa Nandy. And she's doing some, incitement to non-paying here, because she's telling us it's not enforceable. Don't give it away. Yeah. Letting everyone know the secret. And, of course, she's also saying that more women are affected by this, and that's true. 74% of women make up 74% of the convictions are women. Yeah. And this accounts for 30% of convictions of women.
Why are women so criminal?
That's extraordinary, isn't it? They watch so much TV. So it's the usual debate. How are we going to sort this out? It's very difficult, isn't it? Because the BBC are always trying to say they're unbiased. And that's just a very difficult thing. I was listening to a journalist thing, and they had Ross Kempsell on from Guido Fawkes, and he suggested that maybe we need to get beyond trying to be unbiased and talk about balance instead, which I think is much more sensible, right? Because you can come to something and say, well, this is what I think, but actually here's what the other person thinks as well.
But there's such an obvious bias in some BBC presenters. We just saw Gary Lineker this week saying that, you know, the BBC should stop trying to pander to people who don't like the BBC. Is it fine? Well, then we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. Can you even be impartial in our famously polarised political world? It's almost impossible to imagine. They could certainly have had a better stab at it, though, because it's so obvious. We know what the BBC's view is on basically every issue. I'm surprised in a way that Lisa Nandy's attacking them, because like even the Starmer government, you'd think are aligned with the BBC, are now attacking them. But if you think about it, the BBC is even further left now than Labour, because just on various issues, and on Palestine, they're on a different page to Labour, right? You tend to imagine, of course, the BBC would say they're impartial. And what I want to know as well is we'll never know if it's just the anachronism of the licence fee and the way it's taken, or if it is the lack of impartiality. You know what I mean? Like, had the BBC actually been really, really impartial, would people still find it weird paying for it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With threatening letters. When it's like, why is my Netflix sending me letters? It's like, it's mental.
Yeah.
I thought about it today, though, by the way, and if the BBC did end, nothing would happen. It's just like, it'd be like Times...
Nothing in your life.
No, it'd be like Times Radio. So it's just another, like, lefty or slightly lefty channel. Like, oh, that's interesting, I can flick onto that or not. Yeah. It's not a big deal anymore, I don't think.
And also, maybe it would be a
crazy?
runaway success if it was subscription only. I mean, Netflix doesn't seem to have any trouble finding subscribers. Amazon Prime as well, like, lots of people subscribing to that. So maybe the licence fee is holding the BBC back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be totally anti-BBC. They'd be fine if, do iPlayer, charge people for it, be slightly less woke than Netflix. That'll be impossible for them. And good luck.
OK, well, coming up after the break, we take a look at The Telegraph, and we've got more stories from inside the newspaper. So we'll see you then. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay to see what you've been saying. Michael Wallace says, the BBC was long ago infiltrated by pervs. Yeah, we remember the court cases. Hugh Jarrett says, the BBC holding listening sessions for trans women is just an attempt to boost figures for Radio 2. Very good, Hugh. Let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got the Telegraph here, Cressida.
Yes, Starmer to rent homes for Channel migrants. So
Well, that's generous of him. Is he using his own money?
I don't think he is, Leo.
Is it ours?
I think he's using ours. But this is going to cost less than fancy hotels, so we should be...
You know what would cost
thrilled.
less than both of them? A big kick up the bottom and a sharp point in the direction of where they came from.
Well, there you go. That's your balance view. So they're looking at a company called Serco that already housed 30,000 asylum seekers. It says they've got a portfolio of 7,000 properties. So there's a lot of people in each of these properties.
Yeah.
So they can't be very glamorous, can they? And of course, we've got loads of migrants coming at the moment. We're just about to have a week of 27-degree heat, so that's going to presumably make it a lot easier for people to get in here. So the point is, as usual, we've got more people coming and nowhere to put them.
Yeah, I mean, I love the headline, as if Starmer's renting them out himself, like he stuck an advert on Gumtree, and it just like his approval rating is not low enough yet, so he's like, what can I do to make it even worse? This isn't new, this stuff, these dodgy contracts. It's really disturbing. I think I knew someone who was a landlord who actually went to one of these meetings. It's quite disturbing if you know what goes on. They're selling our country. It's disgusting. But the context makes this even worse. I start to think Starmer doesn't want to be in this job for longer than 4 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's already decided that's enough. Because how much... He's so unpopular already. Alison Pearson quoted he was minus 103 the other day. I couldn't figure out where that came from, but that sounds bad. So we're
reaching levels of unpopularity. More people than are officially in the country are, hate him. I mean, that's incredible. Although, I mean, I guess the census doesn't catch everyone, especially considering Starmer keeps bringing in people in little boats who probably don't fill in the census. But yeah, this does seem to be, considering other countries got such a grasp on it. Trump in America, the illegal border crossings have virtually been eliminated. They're down, 97%. India just gave Pakistan, said Pakistani nationals have to get out of the country in 48 hours. So other countries seem to manage to do something about it without being wishy-washy.
And famously, if you're a French philosopher, you can just be not allowed into the country in the first place. Imagine that, controlling the actual border. It's just annoying that more of these dingy people aren't French philosophers. Some of them might be.
Well, I think the trouble with the French philosopher is he is a civilised man who obeys the rules of society. So if you follow the rules of society, it leaves you open to being persecuted by the government. Whereas if you just jump in a boat and come here...
Yes, classic anarcho-tyranny. I have to say it once per show, or I don't get my sponsorship money.
OK, moving on, we've got the Financial Times. For a change.
Yes, good old FT. All US iPhone production to shift to India. So this was Trump's genius plan. Now, I hate to be anti-Trump. I've been the most pro-Trump person probably in the world, including Trump and his immediate family. But it's a strange one here because he did the tariffs and Apple just went, OK, we'll just move all our stuff to India. And then Trump was like, oh, maybe I'll give you a discount for computer stuff. And they were like, oh, too late, we're going to India. So they're going to shift assembly of all US sold iPhones to India as soon as next year. And it's just... I don't know. I wonder. My theory on this, and don't shout at me in the comments, but my theory is Trump won such a crushing domestic victory. He started to think the US had more power in the world than it does, even though his whole campaign had been about the decline of US power. And he was right. And so he's tried to do this trade war with China, and he's gone, oh, whoops, I'm not sure you can do a trade war with China anymore. Yeah. Just a theory.
Well, I also think he's misjudged the trade deficit. I mean, there is a 300 billion trade deficit with China. But, I mean, if you look at the stuff, so American companies are making stuff in China and sending it to the US. So US consumers get it cheaper, but it's an American company that's getting richer. So if you look at China, everybody's walking around with American brands, whereas if you look at America, people aren't walking around with Chinese brands. So who really is, benefiting from the trade there?
Interesting point. Also, from a security point of view, it can't do any harm, can it, to get out of China and into India? Surely that's a good move.
Yeah, in case they wire a special listening device into the iPhone.
Exactly.
I hear things are kicking off in India now as well.
yeah. It's pretty soon that production is going to get moved to Britain.
That'd be nice.
No.
That would be nice. We need some jobs here. We've got the Telegraph now, with white men banned from applying for jobs in football, which is a shame because elite sports are one place that needs a bit of white representation, Nick.
Yep, another day, another anti-white story. White men blocked from applying for jobs at Premier League clubs, but really it's the coaches that they're worried that are underrepresented. They're obsessed with this in football. Everything has to be equity. So all has to be equal. The football team doesn't have to be equal. That's just the best players, whatever race. But the coaches, oh no, we've not got enough BAME coaches or something. Well, who cares? But apparently we do care. So, but the problem now, you go, hang on, how can they do this in the Equality Act? Well, because it's seen as positive action. Doing stuff against white people is positive action, but you have to finesse it, the advert, properly. You have to say you're seeking applications from everyone, but you wish to encourage others to apply. But you can't restrict someone else applying. And then if all things are being equal, you give it, of course, to the non-white person, because that's the country we live in.
So the correct way to do it is to waste the white people's time by making them apply and then just not...
Yes, by lying in the advert. But they weren't clever enough. Man United, sadly my team, and Liverpool, and many others were not clever enough to lie. Now, Ipswich took one down when Rupert Lowe pointed it out on Twitter, probably to reword it. So, in a way, you know, what's annoying is it's not the Equality Act is going, no, this is fine, you just got to word it more cleverly. But they're sort of in, I suppose they're so used to a culture of anti-white discrimination, they just go, no white people for this. And then they've gone, no, you're not supposed to say it.
Well, I agree, I think, because we all sort of know that's kind of what it means.
Right.
So they just get it wrong because they're stumbling and saying what they know is behind it.
They probably got a footballer to write the advert. That was probably
And do you think, probably somebody they hired. And do you think they should do this on pitch? I mean, do you think we should have basketball teams with, an equal representation of Chinese people, maybe some African pygmies? That would be fair, right? And fairness is what this is all about.
Let's see how that looks. That's a great idea.
I mean, if meritocracy is a good idea, it's a good idea everywhere. So if meritocracy is good for the team, it's good for the back office. And if proportional representation is good for the back office, then it's surely good for the team. And it'll just improve our football teams to chuck in a bunch of ultra-Orthodox Jews and maybe some of those people who live on the islands of Scotland.
Yeah, you just got to make sure every country does it right. Otherwise, we'd lose every international competition. But I'd love to see every country just perfectly diverse, rubbish team. That's where we're headed.
That sounds like politics. We've got the Daily Mail now, and it looks like Hollywood might be getting back to the glory days of muscles and explosions thanks to Trump.
Maybe. Angelina Jolie's father, John Voight, pitches wild plan to Trump to turn Hollywood MAGA after he was named special ambassador. So he's in this... By the way, it says here, the Oscar winner and father to starlet Angelina Jolie. She's 49. Is she really a starlet? That's the main issue here. He's part of a triumvirate of titans from the silver screen. So he's been lumped in with Mel Gibson and Sylvester Stallone. Now, they're going to go to Hollywood with the task of telling everyone Trump's a great idea. Yeah. And the way they're going to do this is with tax breaks, which actually isn't as crazy as it sounds, because Hollywood's on its knees, and Trump's described it as a great but very troubled place. I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, up until you said the tax breaks, this was sounding like a Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson helps Mel Gibson make a film. What's interesting is, so the US tax code allows tax deductions for films, but there's a $15 million limit, as opposed to Britain, which apparently is so wealthy and has such largesse that we could give £89 million to the new Jurassic Park film.
Did we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it any good? Because I feel like they've been going a bit long, though. Go on. Is the film any good? Yeah, there's sort of a few too many of them. Like, the first one was amazing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's like a dinosaur in the city. Oh, there's one in the, it's like in the car park. Like, we've seen it all. Sorry, carry on.
And they keep making the dinosaurs bigger. Bigger, and it just gets silly.
Yeah.
And every film's got computer-generated dinosaurs now, so it's not even a special thing. No, it won't be as good as Jurassic Park, the first one.
But sorry, I think you had a serious point, Cressida, did you?
Not really. Okay. You're right. This is limited, very sensible. That's what they didn't do in Britain. They said, we'll give you a percentage back. And then they just went and spent £1 gazillion. And that's why we paid so much money for that Jurassic Park film.
And this is where the trade war with China could hurt Hollywood as well, because China is such a huge market for American films now. Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, but that's weird, isn't it? Like, they did that thing with, like, Fight Club, where they changed the ending and just said the police caught them all and it was fine. It's weird stuff. They get to pick the endings. I like this. I mean, what's wrong with encouraging building new infrastructure in New Jersey or something? What's wrong with that?
Absolutely. And it's great to see some right-wing people getting involved in the arts. We've got the Mirror now with the United Healthcare assassin Luigi Mangione facing a possible legal health problem, Nick.
Yeah, it's United Healthcare assassin Luigi Mangione faces death penalty in major legal update on case. So, yeah, I mean, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, has been saying, I've directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty, which is extraordinary. I mean, you almost feel like maybe it's a sort of political... I hope it's not a political thing. I'm sure it isn't. But it sort of feels like that because he's a sort of a figure, a sort of hero for the left now in a really sick way.
Yeah.
But I'm glad... I'm not saying I want him to be killed. This is not for me to decide, but I'm saying maybe you do need a dose of reality when you're celebrating a guy that's... I mean, we know there's a lot of discontent around. And on the right, you say, could we maybe secure our border a little bit sometimes? On the left, you say, oh, it's good to shoot CEOs in the head. I'm like, guys, you may have jumped the shark on this one. I found it incredibly disturbing, the hero worship of this guy. And so maybe this is a dose of reality. But whether it's the right thing, I don't know. But it's he certainly needs some sort of punishment, obviously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, no healthcare system is going to be perfect. And the American healthcare system, you know, they seem upset that it's delivered for profit. But pretty much everything is delivered for profit. And if you look at, you know, the margins for United Healthcare, I think they're about 8%. So they're not massive margins compared to something like Apple. Apple, I think it's like 25 or 30% is the profit margin that they make. That might have been affected by the tariffs, of course. But, I mean, should we then be shooting every CEO with a successful company that makes too much money? It's ridiculous.
Exactly. So all this, guys, is some kind of poster boy for the politics of envy. I hate this case. I agree with you. I think it's so disturbing. They're talking about the money being donated. Just recently, there's been a single donation of $36,500.
Wow.
Presumably from a rich person. Which is just odd, isn't it? Because I feel like this is people complaining about people making money. It just makes no sense to me. Having said that, I agree. I think it's a bit heads on spikes. And that's not OK, is it? To send a guy to the gallows for political reasons.
He did kill, or I mean, I don't want to jeopardise the
but
case.
He
did seem to kill someone.
If he wasn't like vaguely good looking, none of this would be happening, would it? Let's be real.
That's the interesting thing, because so many women were obsessed with him. He was like the new Ted Bundy, because nothing turns on a left-wing woman more than complete antisocial, psychopathic, murderous behaviour. And so they were all like, oh, this guy's amazing. And then they found out he's 5'7", and now they don't care at all. Anyway, coming up in the next section, we're going to take a look at the front page of the Daily Express, and we've still got lots more stories from inside to have a look at as well. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The unsettled weather continuing across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and some frequent lightning here, but mostly settled elsewhere. Showers continuing across parts of Greece, around the Adriatic coastlines. The odd shower also affecting Barcelona, but otherwise much of Spain and Portugal largely settled. Plenty of sunshine and fairly similar across Madeira and Tenerife, though it could be quite breezy here at times, particularly around coasts. And it's across Tenerife where we'll see the best of the sunshine, also the best of the temperatures, with highs of 26 Celsius.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's almost the weekend and we can expect some rain and showers at times, particularly on Saturday. Otherwise, there's going to be lots of dry and warm weather. A different story in the northwest, though, turning wet and windy here. And it's also going to be quite a wet end to the week across Northern Ireland. A frontal system moving through here, eventually dragging in some cloud and rain across western parts of Scotland, western parts of Wales and also southwest England. This could be heavy at times, particularly across hilly areas, but it eventually clears away from Northern Ireland, allowing some clear spells to develop. And with light winds, that means we're likely to see some mist and fog. Also across the southeast, we could see some mist and fog, but it should remain largely dry through the course of the night. For the start of the weekend, that does mean it is going to remain rather damp across western parts of Scotland, largely dry to the very far east, but any rain should largely fizzle away through the course of the morning. A much drier start to the day across Northern Ireland, though some mist and fog patches likely in places, and still fairly damp across Wales and parts of southwest England. Perhaps the odd shower across central areas too. Across the far southeast, some low cloud, but once again this petering out through the course of the morning. Perhaps turning more showery in nature, which means we might see some more bright and sunny spells in between. But for Northern Ireland in particular, a much better day compared to Friday. Much drier and much more in the way of sunshine. But elsewhere, it's likely to be a slightly more cloudier picture. But where you see any breaks in that cloud, it is going to feel very warm for the time of year. Highs of around 19 degrees Celsius across the far southeast. Now, the second half of the weekend, there's going to be less cloud around, more in the way of sunshine. Feeling very warm in that sunshine once again, particularly across the southeast. But a different story across northwest Scotland, turning quite blustery here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain. And into next week, we have high pressure building, lots of sunshine and temperatures improving day by day. So by the time we reach Tuesday and Wednesday, feeling very warm indeed.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay to see what you've been saying. Pete Replica says, is anyone going to mention that it's Anzac Day? Yes, it is, and we give thanks to the sacrifice of our Antipodean cousins. And Coral North says, dream team on Headliners tonight. Great to have Leo back. Thank you, Coral. I'm enjoying myself. It is a great lineup. Let's have a look at some more front pages with the Daily Express.
Britain will enjoy a week of 27-degree heat.
Wow.
That's the whole headline. So we're going to have a lovely hot week. It's going to be 10 degrees above the normal average for this time of year. So that's
nice.
Good, isn't it?
You don't care about that?
I definitely can't add anything. I don't have balance on the weather. Actually, I do. It's bad. It's bad when it's too hot. How about that?
Well, some people would say, oh, it's bad because sea levels are going to rise. Although the same people say, well, we need more environment or something. And like if the sea levels rise, it's more environment for fish and for turtles. I mean, it's a bit less for seagulls, but all seagulls do is steal your chips.
My position
and do a poo in your car. And if you wanted that, you go out with a girl from Newcastle. I don't understand the problem.
Great point. Well, no, my position is I'm happy if the world ends due to climate change, if it annoys some Guardian readers.
Exactly. Exactly. Go down in a literal blaze of glory.
Absolutely.
And we've also got the Daily Star front cover.
But you say I'm going to go down a blaze of glory, Leo, but I'm not, because they're going to block the sun. It's BOF's plan to switch off the sun.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's these BOFs. And this is actually, I've heard a lot about this. They're going to dim the sun. So they want 50 million quid to dim the sun. So, I mean, Gates has been on about this for ages, hasn't he? Chucking some stuff in the way of the sun. Leave the sun alone.
Yeah, I seem to remember in The Simpsons, sorry to keep referencing The Simpsons tonight, but Mr. Burns had a plan to blot out the sun, and that wasn't seen as a positive
comically evil.
How did it go?
I mean, surely we should maybe... And also, doesn't this confirm one of the conspiracy theories that contrails or weather...
Chemtrails.
The chemtrails, they're spraying stuff in the atmosphere to do something, and here they are. They're spraying stuff in the atmosphere to do something to control the weather.
Well, you know it's not going to be incredibly sinister because it's called cloud brightening.
Cloud brightening.
Yeah, that's reassuring, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very nice name. Well, let's try and squeeze in one of the stories for inside the paper. We've got the Telegraph now with Trump having a judge arrested. It's not traditionally a great omen for freedom and democracy, Cressida, is it this time?
FBI chief orders arrest of judge for shielding migrant. This is unbelievable, and it's happened in America. It's a Milwaukee County Circuit judge who's she's been detained at the courthouse she works at because the police turned up and went, "Where is he?" And she let this guy out a side door who was an irregular migrant.
What if she has to go in front of herself to be sentenced?
Great point.
Well, that's what would happen in this country, probably, but it's America, so I don't know.
It is bad to get detained at your own workplace. I thought that only happened to Lewis Schaefer, but it now happens to judges.
We keep asking him to leave.
I know, that's a good point. No, I thought we had activist judges. I mean, she asked them to leave this secret back entrance. This is a domestic abuse case.
Yeah.
And it's just so deranged
What
by
does she think
leftism.
she is, a judge in Britain? This is shocking. We've got a few that they could do that to here. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Daily Express leads with Britain will enjoy a week of 27 degrees heat. I think that's this week, or it might be a week several years in the future. The Daily Mail has Greg Wallace, sex pest claims left me suicidal. The Daily Mirror has make tourists fear us. That's anti-tourist protests in Europe. The Independent has World Health Organization warns Trump cuts put millions of HIV patients at risk. The Eye has UK rail crisis deepens with 2025's worst train services revealed. The Daily Star has Boff's plan to switch off the sun. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to Cressida and Nick. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for breakfast. Goodbye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's almost the weekend and we can expect some rain and showers at times, particularly on Saturday. Otherwise, there's going to be lots of dry and warm weather. A different story in the northwest, though, turning wet and windy here. And it's also going to be quite a wet end to the week across Northern Ireland. A frontal system moving through here, eventually dragging in some cloud and rain across western parts of Scotland, western parts of Wales and also southwest England. This could be heavy at times, particularly across hilly areas, but it eventually clears away from Northern Ireland, allowing some clear spells to develop. And with light winds, that means we're likely to see some mist and fog. Also across the southeast, we could see some mist and fog, but it should remain largely dry through the course of the night. For the start of the weekend, that does mean it is going to remain rather damp across western parts of Scotland, largely dry to the very far east, but any rain should largely fizzle away through the course of the morning. A much drier start to the day across Northern Ireland, though some mist and fog patches likely in places, and still fairly damp across Wales and parts of southwest England, perhaps the odd shower across central areas too. Across the far southeast, some low cloud, but once again this petering out through the course of the morning, perhaps turning more showery in nature, which means we might see some more bright and sunny spells in between. But for Northern Ireland in particular, a much better day compared to Friday. Much drier and much more in the way of sunshine. But elsewhere, it's likely to be a slightly more cloudier picture. But where you see any breaks in that cloud, it is going to feel very warm for the time of year. Highs of around 19 degrees Celsius across the far southeast. Now, the second half of the weekend, there's going to be less cloud around, more in the way of sunshine, feeling very warm in that sunshine once again, particularly across the southeast. But a different story across northwest Scotland, turning quite blustery here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain. And into next week, we have high pressure building, lots of sunshine and temperatures improving day by day. So by the time we reach Tuesday and Wednesday, feeling very warm indeed.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain.